If you've ever felt down, I don't blame you. There is a lot wrong in the world today, from three conflicts around the world to the economy not looking well in the US. Layoffs are happening left and right, so you might have lost your job, your significant other might have broken up with you, etc., etc. There's a lot of external factors that can influence your internal modem of thinking, but it's important to kind of study the roots and the causes of that way of thinking with human psychology. And so that's one interest that I've taken a liking to quite recently, actually, with a lot of YouTube channels, including Dan Coe and like some other ones that I follow up on, about like why human beings think the way they do. And so human psychology teaches you that our brain is hardwired to think in terms of pains and then needs. So the needs, for example, can be a need to find shelter, a need to find water because you're thirsty, a need to find food because you're hungry, a need for status because that's how a lot of society operates nowadays. And then the pain is the pain of not meeting that need, which I find very interesting because the pain is a derivative of the need. And so, if human beings are hardwired to think like that, it makes sense why a lot of companies with their marketing target the pains and needs of individuals. And when you look at any advertisement on your phone, on the TV, even print advertisements on a billboard, they target the pains of not fulfilling a need in order to incentivize you in buying their product. So, a good example of studying human psychology and also marketing is Alex Hormozy, the man who is touted to be the most successful entrepreneur in, right now, at least like on YouTube. And by all means, he is. I think he's on track to become a billionaire, which is insane when you think about it. So going off of the books that I've like read from him, I think he's written two so far, and then he has some lessons on his website that you can dig through. It's free for the most part. But the point of what I'm getting at is that with marketing, there are a couple of principles that a lot of these companies and individuals use when it comes to selling. So, for example, FOMO, the fear of missing out, as an acronym for short. And what that means in context is that a lot of companies will open their products for, let's say, like a week before people swarm and buy everything out, and then they won't release it for like the rest of the year. Another big thing are discounts, where companies like Walmart, for example, will say like 50% off on the clothing aisle, and everyone buys it because it's 50% off. Another big one is scarcity. So companies will typically produce a limited amount of goods, and then they will tell the public that you better buy this because there's only 50 of these that will ever exist. I think that's how the major luxury car brands like Maserati, Lamborghini, etc., like make a lot of their money is by producing a limited quantity of cars, and then people feel compelled to buy it because it's like, oh my god, there's only 10 of these on the market. I need that for my own status and my own wealth. And so when you take all these marketing tactics into consideration, it's sort of sick how these companies and people target your pains and needs to get you to buy their stuff. But it's also genius at the same time because if you understand that, you can effectively control your mindset and also your life by comparison. So, using myself as a personal example, because that's the only example that I can give, in my life, when I'm feeling down and I'm feeling unfulfilled, for example, I try to back it up with three wins that I try to do on a daily basis. So the first one is a creative win. And so what I mean by creative is it could be anything. It could be like learning to produce better social media content for YouTube. That's something I'm learning right now. Learning how to manage a brand with brand colors, for example, to understand human psychology. So long as it's a creative win, at the end of the day, you feel fulfilled and you feel you fulfill that creative part of your brain, which is very important because a lot of jobs nowadays are so routine and so bland that they force you to repeat the same task over and over again, and that creative part of you dies, at least in my opinion. The second is a physical win. And so I work out, or at least I try to work out 4 to 5 times a week. My workouts are usually brief but intense to the point where I feel like I've moved my body. And working out, moving your body as a whole, is important for a physical one because it releases certain dopamine receptors in your brain. It tells you, you've moved your body so that you're physically exhausted, not just mentally exhausted. And then at the same time, you're physically fit. That's kind of obvious, but it's very true. So you have a physical win, you have a creative win, and then you have a personal win. And so I leave that third one very broad on purpose because I believe that it's an umbrella term that encompasses a lot of different categories. It could be business, it could be spirituality, it could be personal development. So long as it's a personal win with how you believe it to be, that is the personal win at the end of the day that you should try to fulfill. And so, for example, if you're a business owner, that means that you made a particular sale. If you're a spiritual person, that means that you fulfill an oath that you've made to God or whoever you believe in. So at the end of the day, you have three wins. You have a personal win, a creative win, and then a physical win. And so you put all these three together, and I try to fulfill these three wins on a daily basis if I can. Some days I don't, some days I do. It varies. I'm not a saint. What do you expect? And so when you fulfill these three wins on a daily basis, at least for me, you fill the whole human metaphorical experience. And the pains and needs in my life, I find, are mitigated when I try to fulfill all three of these things. Like, I'm not making enough money. Okay, well then I can study how to become an entrepreneur. I need a creative outlet. Then I can study how to do painting. I feel like a lard butt because I laid on the couch all day today and I didn't move. Okay, well then it's time to hit the gym or go for a run. So the way that your mind can operate is just by that. It's like you have a win or a need that you need to fulfill, and then if you don't do that, you'll have the pain of not fulfilling those needs. And so at the end of the day, I challenge you to be the person that you are meant to be and not the person that you are now. And this comes with a caveat because a lot of the self-improvement material that I find on YouTube always pressures you to become a different person almost. It's like you need to wake up at 4 a.m. to become a billionaire. You need to take cold showers every day to get your mind right and your spirit right. I take that all with a grain of salt because, I'm not a millionaire or a billionaire by any means, so, take this with a grain of salt as well. But from one human being to another, and from someone who is trying to provide some sort of value to the world, I feel that by fulfilling these three wins on a daily basis, you will ultimately lead the path of living a more fulfilled life. I challenge you to become the person that you are meant to be and to change in some small way. If you can fulfill these three needs on a daily basis and win with these three wins on a daily basis, you'll find that your mindset can shift as well as your life, potentially, depending on how long you implement them. So stay tuned as we explore more questions like this throughout the year, and also stick around.